This is your last video for this lesson. I wanted to do another example of graphing a quadratic in standard form. Very important that you label A, B, C to help you. So A is -1, B is 1, and C is 12. How I got that information is A is always the number in front of x squared, which happens to be a -1. B is in front of x, and there's no number, so it's assumed it's a 1. And then C is 12. I know that C is my y-intercept, so if I go to graph that, it will not fit. So what we're going to have to do is say, we're going to have to label and say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And so in order to graph my y-intercept, I had to change the increments on my graph. You don't need to label unless you're changing the increments. So also I will go -2, -4, just so we know. Okay, once you have that A, B, C labeled, then you need to figure out your vertex. Vertex is always the formula opposite of B over 2 times A. So opposite of +1 will be a -1, and then 2 times A is -1, so that is a -1 over a -2. A negative divided by a negative is a +1/2. Unfortunately, that is super ugly, but it's where my vertex is. I'm not changing my increments here, so I also know that I have a vertex at 1/2 and as well as an axis of symmetry at 1/2. So through here, x equals 1/2, that's my axis of symmetry. That's the line that we can fold along to build my quadratic. So I could easily go graph on the other side of that another point. Just flip it over that line. If I zoom in, you can see how I did that. Okay. Alright, next we are going to use a t-table to find the information. And honestly, I'm fine if you just do 3 points because you know how you can find more points, just going higher and lower than your axis of symmetry. So I'm going to put 1/2 right there in the middle. And if I think, okay, what's a number, a nice number, a whole number that's on each side? Well, that would be 1, and that would be 0. I could have gone further and had 2 and -1. But if I plug in to my function a negative and then my parenthesis 0 squared plus 0 plus 12, I will get 12. If I plug in negative and then I plug in 1/2 squared, because this equation is -1 times x squared plus 1/2 plus 12, I get 12.25. If I plug in 1, I will get 12. So my points are 0, 12, 1, 12, which we already predicted, and then I go 1/2 and up just a little bit higher, 12.25. I can connect this and I know that my parabola opens down, which I knew from the very beginning. Because A was negative, I knew that this graph was going to open down. We are going to save these examples for later, so don't worry about those. You should now have your homework. Once you show the substitute that you have finished this example on your paper, then the substitute will give you the homework, and you can work on it. Check your answers on Canvas. See you when I get back.